You ever notice how some people finally get close to the life they always wanted, and then they start fucking it up? Not all at once, but like quietly. They stop taking the risk that got them there. They hesitate on decisions that they would have made instantly 2 years prior. And then they start overthinking conversations and avoiding visibility. And then the biggest thing is they start delaying moves they know they should have made. But from the outside, you would say that looks responsible. But internally, they're drowning under pressure that they know they can't hold on to. The most dangerous part of growth is that success starts triggering the same survival responses that failure used to. And nobody talks about this shit. You wanna know why? Because it's easier to sell strategy than to explain to someone with the right information who still collapses when their life finally starts to expand. So if you're watching this, you probably already know what you need to do. And that's the frustrating part. Most people at your level aren't stuck because you're lazy. You're stuck because pressure changed how you operate. So at first you move fast because you trust yourself. You're cool with taking a bunch of swings. But then when the stakes get bigger and money gets involved and more people start depending on you, you have way more to lose. And slowly, you stop making decisions from vision, and then you start making decisions based on protection. So then you tell yourself you're being careful or strategic or that good word responsible. But really, you're trying not to feel that pressure. And that's the shift that changes everything. I remember when I was working on this 122 unit apartment deal in Vegas. So to lock this deal up, I had to send $120,000 in earnest money deposit. And I remember sitting there staring at the screen before I was about to send this wire. Because once I sent it, shit was gonna get real. And I'm not talking about in theory or like creating content, real fucking pressure. And that's when it hit me. The numbers weren't what made me uncomfortable. It was the exposure. Because when you grew up in an environment in poverty or scarcity like I did, big decisions hit your nervous system differently. Your mind starts racing. What if this goes bad? What if I lose this money? Or what if I just stretch too far? So from the outside, you might be thinking, oh, that's just business. But no, it's deeper than that. Most of the times, it's old survival patterns getting activated because you're growing. So that's why people self-sabotage opportunities that they prayed for. And it's not because they don't want success. It's because success or growth starts to trigger pressure. And when you really sit with that, you start realizing maybe the issue was never information. Maybe the pressure is changing your behavior more than you think. So when you look at all these gurus online, most people think the answer is another tactic, like add another funnel. How many funnels do you have? Or maybe it's another strategy. Or the biggest one, here's this new productivity system. But you can't solve internal pressure with external tactics because pressure changes decisions. That's the part nobody prepares for, especially founders and entrepreneurs. Because when things start growing, people start acting differently. You hesitate longer. A lot of times people avoid having these hard conversations. But the biggest one I always see is people undercharge. And then you start delaying decisions you already know the answer to. And it's not because you got less intelligent all of a sudden. It's because growth starts to feel emotionally expensive. And if your system associates growth with stress, you will unconsciously slow down your expansion or growth. I've seen people work 10 times harder just to avoid one uncomfortable ass decision. And that's not strategy. That's just a person acting in self-protection. And honestly, some of you are thinking about a decision right now that you know you've been avoiding. And it's not because you don't know what to do. It's because you know making the move is gonna change your life. And that level of change, it feels heavy. I call this the identity ceiling. Everybody has a level where growth starts to feel real uncomfortable. And once you hit that level, you start pulling yourself back without even realizing it. I mean, take a look online, you see it all the time. Someone starts getting momentum on Instagram, TikTok, and then they're gone. Or someone starts making more money and then they start creating chaos. To me, a good example of that is American Greed Look that show up. But anyway, someone finally gets the chance they wanted, but then hesitates when it's time to fully step into it. Because making more money is one thing, but being a person who can hold that consistently is something completely different. And that's the real work. And the truth is, your income usually grows to the level you can emotionally handle. That's why two people can have access to the same information and one of them scales while the other stays in the same cycle, repeating the same patterns. One of them adjusts to the pressure and the other one is controlled by it. And the crazy part, while this is happening, most people think they're just being careful. They don't realize fear can sound responsible, but in your own head. That's a big part of why I built the adaptive sovereignty. Because most people actually never looked at how they operate under pressure. They never measured how stress affects their decisions, or how uncertainty affects their confidence, or how pressure changes their behavior. So they repeat the same patterns without seeing it. Different business, different relationship, even with different levels of income, you get the same reaction. That's what the adaptive sovereignty index is for. It's not to label you, but to show you the patterns that you can't see while you're inside of it. Because once you see the pattern, you can stop living inside of it. So here's what I want you to do over the next 2 days. First, identify one thing that you have been delaying, whether it be a conversation, a pricing decision, maybe a new hire, or maybe even something bigger like an expansion move. But it's something that you know it already needs to happen. And number 2, ask yourself honestly, am I protecting my future or am I protecting my comfort? But be real with yourself with that. Number 3, look at the people around you. Who normalizes hesitation and who normalizes growth? Because eventually your standards are gonna match your environment. And that's true whether that shit helps you or it hurts you. So at some point, every person, every entrepreneur or founder runs into a version of themselves they haven't outgrown yet. That's usually where your income stalls. It's not because you're not capable, it's because pressure has exposed your habits, your fears, and the pattern that you probably never dealt with. And if you don't understand how you respond under pressure, you'll keep triggering the same survival patterns and calling it strategy. This channel is about understanding the psychology behind growth, decision making under pressure, performance, and we're not about that business tactic stuff. Because the strategy matters, but the person behind it executing it matters more. So if this hit home, subscribe, and if you really want to understand how you actually operate under pressure, go to adaptivesovereignty.com, take the test. Because most people don't stay stuck because of lack of information. They stay stuck because they never realized pressure was quietly changing who they were becoming. So if this video helped you in any way, please share it with a friend, because someone might be going through the same thing that you are and they don't even know it. So until next time, take care.